everyone, welcome back to Portable Entrepreneur. Today I'm going to be showing you exactly how to build a WordPress website from scratch, not using any coding. And while that is not exactly something new, what is new is that we are going to be using a free, super light, super easy theme that focuses on speed and usability. This theme already has validated HTML. It has built-in schema structured data, and it has lightning fast load times. I mean, this theme is so fast that after I built the site that we are about to go through together, I popped it into Google PageSpeed Insights in order to test the score, and it scored a 99 out of 100. Right out of the box. I didn't do anything. I didn't overly optimize the images or install plugins to help reduce the speed or any other tactics. I simply built it, tested it, and scored a 99 out of 100. So if SEO is at all important to you, or you know anything about SEO, you know that it is very important to Google that your site loads quickly, and that can help with your rankings, as it is more likely to deliver a positive user experience for your site visitors. So this free theme that we're going to be using is called GeneratePress. Now, as I mentioned, GeneratePress is a free theme, and they also have premium modules. So I'm going to show you both so you can decide what you would like to do. But we're going to go in and we're going to build some custom headers. We're going to apply those to different areas of our website. So if you want to have a custom header on your homepage and you want to have an entirely different header for your blog post, for example, you'll be able to do that and simply just with the click of a button, apply that header to the pages or the section of your site that you want it to go to. Same thing with footers and menus. Now, if building out a site from scratch isn't exactly your thing, they also have a site library. So you can simply go through the site library, select the design that looks most like how you want your website to appear, import that demo site. It'll tell you exactly what plugins you may want to use to get that functionality or to make the site appear in the way that it does, if that's necessary. And you will have a site that is already done for you. You can simply change the colors or the text, the images to be more fitting for your actual website. So by using GeneratePress, you are really being given a head start when it comes to SEO before you even add content into your site, which is really amazing. Now, just like with all of my tutorials, we are going to go step by step through the entire process here. So we're going to go from having a blank WordPress installation, installing the actual theme, looking at the modules, building out the pages, and at the end, we are going to have a live, beautiful, functioning website. But I'm also going to leave timestamps down below. So if you want to jump to a particular section or you ever need to come back and look at a particular section, you'll be able to just jump right to that spot so you don't have to go through the whole thing again. So I'm really excited to do this with you. What we're going to do is jump on over to the computer now, and we're going to install GeneratePress and start building out this website. All right, I am really excited to build this site, get it done quickly, and see how fast this website is working. So let's just go ahead and get right to it. As you can see, I am going to be starting from a complete blank slate, just like you. The only thing that has been done up until this point is simply installing WordPress. That is it. So that is why you see this just sample post here, and this is all that is on the website at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to head over to the dashboard, and the first thing we want to do is install GeneratePress. So we are going to go to Appearance and Themes, and we're going to click on Add New, and we're going to quickly just do a search for GeneratePress. There it is. And we will click the install button. So since we want to use this theme, we are going to activate that theme to make it live. So if we head back over to the live site now, we can see that it has already changed because we have GeneratePress installed and activated. So that was simple enough. Now, since we are here, this isn't specific to GeneratePress, but I always want to keep the site loading as quickly as possible. I want to close as many security loopholes as possible. So when I have a theme, and that's the theme I am using, I will go to the other themes and delete them. So to do that, we will click on Theme Details. Bottom right hand corner, click on the delete button there, and we will confirm that we are okay with that being deleted. And we will do that here real quick with each of these themes. So now that that is done, we have just the one theme that is there and we are good to go. Now, the next thing that I want to do is we are going to go over here to my GeneratePress account. So I've already signed up for GeneratePress Premium. So what I want to do is I want to download this. So when you have the premium version, this is going to give you other modules that you're going to be able to add on here. So they do have a site library, and this has a lot of different demo sites. So if you like any of the demo sites or you want something that's very similar to the demo sites, you can go ahead and just import those demo sites and then you can customize it from there. So that makes it really, really easy. You're going to have all the colors and the fonts that you're going to need to change. You'll be able to select from different elements, and that's going to help you rearrange the page in the way that you want. You'll be able to edit the menus and the secondary navigation bars. You'll have more flexibility with the blogs and the backgrounds and creating different sections. So there are so many good reasons to have the premium version here. So now that that is downloaded, what we're going to do is we're going to come back over here to the navigation bar and go to plugins and add new. So now we're going to add in the Generate Plus plugin, and we're going to click on this upload plugin box up here at the top, and we're going to choose the file. We'll click on that here and open. So now you can see the file name right here, and we will install it just like we did with the theme. Now that the theme has been installed, we will activate that plugin. And there we go. It has been added. Now the next thing we want to do is come back over here to Appearance and GeneratePress. So what we want to do is over here on the right hand side, you can see this updates box, and it is asking for a license key. So this is something that if you have GeneratePress Premium, you're going to be assigned a license key, and you can pop that in here so that you're going to receive automatic updates. So what we'll do is we'll come over to our account here. We will grab that license number and we'll pop it in this box. And now that that has been activated here, we'll go ahead and get started. Now you're going to see that there are all of the features listed here that are included in Premium. But what we need to do is we need to activate those. So for instance, if you want to be able to import from the site library, you can activate that here. If you want to be able to add elements in the menu and any of this here, you want to activate this. Now, if you are going to be building an e-commerce website and you use WooCommerce, you do have to have WooCommerce installed before you're going to be able to activate that here within Generate Plus. So that is why that is not allowing you to activate that here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of these. And as a bulk action, we will activate those. We'll hit apply. And now you can see all of these modules here have been activated. So now that that has been done, you will see here the site library. So as we talked about, if you want to be able to import any of the demo sites, you're going to find all of those here. So here they all are. And if we wanted to scroll through and find one, we could. I'm not going to do that just because I want to show you how to build this out from scratch if you want to do it. But this is something you might be interested in. So let's say we wanted to go with this one, for instance. We can preview that to see what it would look like or go in and get the details here. And then as you can see here, you can go ahead and import the options, and it tells you what content is going to be added in, all of the pages, the menus, the widgets, the plugin, everything that you would see if you preview the site right here. And it also gives you a list down here of the specific plugins that this site uses. So if you really want to have it be exactly like that one, then you're going to need to install these plugins here. And that's it. You will be ready to go. So coming back here to the main page, what we want to do is we want to start to customize the site right here. So we'll go ahead and upload the logo. Now, as you can see, this is bringing us to the customizer where we're going to be able to edit the logo and some other features here, which we'll look at here in just a moment. And we'll get a preview of what this looks like over here. So the first thing we want to do is upload the logo. So we'll grab the logo here and open that up. And once it's uploaded, we'll go ahead and select that. And it's going to ask us to crop it. So we're going to need to adjust it here just a bit. Now we can see the logo is up here. We will go ahead and hide the site title. So now all we have is the logo. If you want to have the tagline, you can uncheck this box and it's going to add that up there, but we'll go ahead and remove that for right now. And if we want to have the logo be a certain width, so let's say this is too big, we don't like it this big, then we can shrink this down to the size that we would prefer. Although always good to upload an image at the size that you want it to appear at. We don't have a site icon right now. That's the one that will just appear up here instead of this little WordPress icon, but we'll be able to come back and add this. So we can go ahead and publish this. And then we're going to scroll up here and we're going to hit this back arrow. So here we've been customizing this site identity. And if we go back, it's going to show us all of the areas of the site that we're going to be able to customize. So now that we've done a site identity, we're just going to pop over to the next one, which is the layout. So as you can see here, we have several options under layout. So what we're doing in all of these sections here is we are creating or really establishing the settings that are going to keep the site looking consistent throughout all of the pages and all of the posts. And then once we're done with these settings, then we're going to go over and start actually creating some pages so you can see how to customize those individual pages to be just the way you want. So what we'll do here is we'll start out in the layout section. We'll head to the first option here, which is the container section. So that's really the whole area here in deciding how you want this to look. So we have the container width. This is how big or small the actual container, as you can see, will be of the website. So if you typically want a website to be full width, then we'll just go ahead and crank this up to 2000. And that way it's full width, and this should appear full width on all of the different screen sizes, even for those who are using larger screens or larger resolutions. And one thing to remember is that GeneratePress is completely mobile friendly. So this is automatically going to adjust for any mobile devices as well. Now in separating space, this is one of the premium add-ons that we installed from the get-go here and we activated. And this is allowing you to select how much space you want between the different elements. So if you don't want there to be any space, well, you can simply reduce that there. And if you want more space, well, you'll just increase that. So we'll go ahead and just leave that where it was for now. Now you'll see here when we adjust the content separator, this is separating the different sections of the content here. So this is really going to be adjusting the space between the featured images, the titles, the content, and the meta, all of that. And so you can choose how much space you want in between those. Now, when it comes to the content layout here, you can choose to separate your content into different blocks, or you can keep them all inside one container. So if you want them all in one container, so you'll be able to select that here and you can see the change that that makes. Or if you want to separate out all of the elements, well, you'll leave it as is. You'll be able to select the alignment of how the boxes and the content here line up. And if you want to add any padding in here, let's say if we change any of this, you can see how that is going to adjust there. If we add it back, the changes that makes. So you'll be able to adjust any of the spacing around there. So that is all really helpful. So once you've done that, we can go back to the next section, which is the header. Now here you see there's a lot of options about how you want the header at the very top to display. So for instance, let's say you want the navigation, the actual menu links to be before the logo. If we change that, well, now here they are. So if you want the menu to go across the top, you can do that. If you want it to appear after and you want it to be centered, well, there it is. It is after the logo and it is centered. So it gives you all of the different options that you can have here. We're just gonna go with the default option. It's typically what I go with because we don't want our users to have to think about where they should be clicking and where the menu is. So it's just easiest if we have them focusing on our call to action, what we want them to do, and leaving everything else as the default here. Now for the header width, you can decide, do you want this to be full width or do you want this to be contained? So we will leave this as full width, and the inner header width, same thing, contained or full. And do we want the header aligned to the left, center, or to the right? So we're just gonna leave that to the left. But as you can see, just like with the other section, there is padding here. So if you want to adjust how much space is on the top here, the bottom, the sides, you want it to go more in or more out, then you'll be able to adjust all of this spacing here. Now for the mobile header, this is something that I like to activate. We can select on here. And when we do that, it's going to give us some additional options below. But this way, what is happening is it is allowing us to customize the way the header is going to look when it appears on mobile devices. So it's going to be more condensed for them, and so they'll be able to see the content easier. So we can choose to have the site title or the logo like we did before. We'll be able to select the logo here. So if we want to add in a different logo, one more condensed, one smaller, we can do that. Now we can also choose to make this sticky, which means that if we turn it on and leave it as sticky, when a user scrolls, that menu is going to remain at the top for them. If you just want them to have to scroll all the way back to the top to be able to see the menu, then you can turn it off. For us, we are not going to make this sticky really because we're not going to have much of a menu, because it's really just a call to action getting them to sign up here. So we're going to leave that off there. So we will go ahead and go back here, and we're going to go on to the primary navigation. So here we're starting off with the mobile menu. So if you want it to just be called menu when a user actually goes to your website on a mobile device, it can have a little hamburger menu, or it can actually say the word menu like this. Now this is allowing you to select at what size screen is this actually going to be considered mobile and start condensing down. So it has a default number here for you, and that's typically what I stick with. And the navigation, where do you want the navigation to appear? Is that going to appear on the right, on the left? But it's very typically on the right. So again, I don't want the user thinking, we're going to leave that on the right there. Now, if you were going to be setting up a drop-down menu, so you have a main menu and you have multiple drop-downs under that, how do you want the user to be able to access those drop-downs? Do you want them to simply hover their mouse over the main menu and then it will drop down there? Or do you want them to have to click or see an arrow in order to be able to view the drop-downs underneath? So we're just going to leave that as is, because again, we're not going to have a lot of menu items and we do not have any drop downs prepared for this particular site. And this is going to allow you to customize, how do you want the drop down to appear? Do you want it to come down from the right? Do you want it to come down from the left? Now, if you have a site, let's say that has a lot of products or it has a lot of blog posts, a lot of content on it, do you want them to be able to search here? So if we enable this, you'll see it puts a little search icon up here. But again, small site for us, not a lot of content. So we're going to disable that feature. And then of course we have the menu width, height, and the same thing for the sub menus, those drop downs that we were looking at a moment ago. How tall do you want those to be? How wide do you want those to be? And this is a really great feature to have and be able to customize right here, because a lot of times there's just one standard option and that doesn't always work for most sites. So that's really helpful to have. But notice here that you have a little desktop and then you have a mobile device here. So you can actually make the menu item width and height different for any of the menus that are on mobile devices compared to the desktop. So as you can see here, it has the little menu and we can click that and it shows us what is there. So when you are looking down here on the bottom right, out of any of these settings here, you're going to be able to choose between a mobile device, a larger view like a tablet, and then back to your desktop view. So that way you're going to be able to customize for these different views here. All right, let's go on to the next one here, which is the secondary navigation. So some of you may choose to have a secondary navigation that appears below your main menu. And if you do, you're going to have all of the same options right here that we just covered. So again, you're going to be able to select the width and the height of those, if it is full, if it's going to be in a container, the alignment, all of that you're going to recognize here. Now, one thing that I want to point out that I haven't just yet is that you'll see at the top of these different sections we're going through these additional controls. So here we have colors, typography, backgrounds. So if you want to customize these even more above the settings that are here, you can select typography and it is going to let you select the particular font that you would like to have. So if you want to change that, for instance, you'll be able to do that here. You can also choose to make this bold if you want to, capitalize it, or leave them all lowercase or uppercase. So that really allows you to be able to customize how big this is. Now, as you make these changes, we're not seeing this here because we don't currently have a secondary navigation set up. But if we go back here, we'll also be able to choose the backgrounds, the colors. But what we'll do here is, let me pop back over to the primary navigation, since that's what we do have set up. And for instance, if I select typography here, and let's go with something very different. So it's obvious, Comic Sans. Look how the font has now changed here. If I want to bold that, I can do that. If I want to make sure that all of my menu items are all uppercase, well, that's all I got to do. And if you want to change that to anything else, you can do so here. So we're going to go back to the default font and we'll go back here. Now, also, if we want to do backgrounds, so if we want to have an image behind the navigation, so that gives you further customization. One that you'll probably want to look at is colors. So this is allowing you to select the background color here. We currently have white. If we wanted to make that blue, we could do that. So the menu will actually be blue. And if we wanted to have the text be a different color and the background hover. So right now it's white. So if I hover my mouse over the menu, it turns white. So sometimes what we'll do is have the standard white color. And then if we have the background color, let's say be red. Now when I hover over that, it turns red. So that's very obvious. That's a little much for what I would like to do here, but what we can do is change the text color. So let's say we want it to be something like the logo color here. So let's just say it was this color. I would get the exact color, but just for demo purposes here, if we select the text hover, now when I roll over it, well, see, it's the same orange. So that's pretty neat. So that's what I would want to leave it as. So this also goes here through the sub menus. Again, if you have any of those drop down menus, if you have the navigation search, would you want the box to have a gray background? What color would you want the text to be? So you're gonna be able to fully customize how this actually appears here. So we're gonna go back to the next section here. We looked at secondary navigation. Now let's go on to the next part. Next up, we have off canvas panel. Now what this is this is something that's becoming increasingly popular. And this is when you have a menu and it has a full screen overlay and this whole panel. And this allows you to fully customize what that looks like. So in order to do this, what you'll actually need to do is go over to your site. Since we're not in the dashboard here, what we'll do is we'll come back over to live site and we'll go to menus, and I'll just open this for us here in a new link for a moment. And you'll see here what we'll need to do is we'll need to create a menu. And what we'll do, let's see if we just did, we'll call this canvas menu. It really doesn't matter. You could call this whatever you wanted. And we'll create that menu. But the first thing we need to do is assign it to a position. So you see we have our primary menu, which is going to be the one that actually appears here at the very top. And we have our secondary menu so that we can create, we were looking at that in the settings. And what we'll do now is we will select off canvas menu and we'll go ahead and create that menu, and we can add any pages to that we want. And we haven't created the pages, so we can't actually add the pages here, but what we'll do is I'll just create this just to show you here for a second. Now, the only page that is created is the sample menu, which is just by default added in from WordPress. So we'll add that to the menu here and we'll click save. So as you can see, we created the menu, we added the page we want, we would list out all the pages here, and we made sure to assign the location as off canvas menu. Okay. There we are. Now we have that off canvas menu. So what we're going to do now is we can come back here and we can select the layout. Do we want this to be tan? Do we want it to be black? Do we want it to be blue? What color actually goes with our scheme here? So for instance, we have this color here. So if we wanted to, we could make the background actually appear in that same orange, or if we wanted more of a contrasting color, which I think I would go for, it would be blue. Then we can select the text to be this grayish color, or we could go with white so it'll pop out a bit. And we have our hover color for the background, which we'll probably just leave that as the same blue no real need for that to change. And we can have the text be white unless we really wanted to show that they were hovering over. Maybe we will change that to the orange, just like when we hover over this here, for example. And if we have any sub menus, usually we don't do those with these type of overlay style menus, but if we do, then you can add any of these settings here and change up those colors. So we'll go ahead and publish this just to save what we've done so far, since we haven't done those here in a minute. Now we do have the different options here. We have the off canvas panel on or off. So now we have the options of, do we want this only to appear for mobile devices? Some sites do only leave this on mobile. That way it just pops up a complete overlay, makes it very easy to see the menu. Or we can do it on desktop, or we can just set it as on and have it for both. Since we're on the desktop here, we'll go ahead and publish that. And as you can see now, it pops up the little menu. Now I'm just doing this to show you as an example here, but when I click this, there we go, we have the pop-up here. And so this is blue, just like we said, we have the white text, and then when we hover over, well, now that is blue. Now, if you actually want to label this menu, you can put some text in here, and that's going to appear here over on the side. So if I put in test, for example, you're going to see that right over here. And we can see, do we want this to slide in? Do we want this to be an overlay? So you can see what this looks like when we click it. So typically this is the style that we're going for. Most sites, unless you're doing a mobile device, for instance, aren't going to have just that small menu. But again, it's up to you, and it depends entirely on what your site looks like here. So we're going to do that as an overlay. And you can select the menu height here, for instance, how you want that to appear. And the settings there, that'll look a little more obvious when you have some more pages. And when we X out of there, we are back on the site. And we've looked at typography already. Same thing, we're going to be able to edit the fonts and everything right there. So I'm going to go back to layout for a moment here, and I'm going to turn this off because we're not going to have a menu that really warrants that for the moment. But I wanted you to see what that looks like. All right, we are moving right along here. We are already on to the sidebars. Now, as you can see here, we have three options for the sidebar. We have the sidebar layout, and this one refers to all of your regular pages. Then we have our blog sidebar. So this is the actual blog, the archives, the search results, and really that blog page that has all of your blog posts listed there. And then we have this single post. So any of your individual blog posts, this is the layout that they're going to have. So for instance, here, this is an example of a blog sidebar. And as you can see, this says content/sidebar. So we have the content on the left, sidebar on the right. Now, each of these has several different options here. So here we can flip it to sidebar followed by content. And as you can see, that's just going to reverse the order here. We can also have two sidebars, which we don't currently have set up here. So that's why it's not appearing. But as you can see, this would create 3 columns, and this will end up being the widest once, this is removed here. And we can have a content and then 2 sidebars. And again, we would have to set these up as widgets, or we could just have the content. So it would just show all the blog posts listed, and then it would have no sidebars at all. Now, that's how you're going to be able to set up the defaults for, again, the pages, your blog sidebar, your single post sidebar, your layouts really for those pages and posts. As you go in and you create an individual page or you create an individual post, which we're about to look at here in just a minute, you're going to be able to change that. So if for one particular page you want to do something different, then you're going to be able to change how that looks as you set up that page. And we'll look at how to do that here in a second. Now, again, we're going to have the padding change here. So let me add the sidebar back here for a second so you can see this. And if we wanted to, let's say on the left, not have any padding, you can see that it removes the space here. So that doesn't really look as good. It's smushed over there. So we'll add this back, but that way you can adjust how much space goes all around here. So if you want to shrink that down, you can certainly do that. And then the left sidebar and a right sidebar. So right now we have a right sidebar. How wide do we want that to be? So right now we have the content taking up 70% of the space and the right sidebar taking up 30%. So if you wanted to reduce that size, you want to increase the size, then you'll be able to do that right there. But we're going to leave it for now as the default there. So heading back over here, let's pop into the blog section. All right, now we get to customize how the blog looks. So we have here the archive pages where we're going to be able to see all the blog posts that appear on the single page. And then we can customize in the same way the way the single blog posts actually look. So starting off with the archives, we can choose whether we want the full content of the post to appear or just the excerpts here, and then how many words actually appear in this section right here. We can add a read more label and display that as a button here below. And then we can choose to do things like display the post date, which we'll see, the author, any of the categories, how many comments there were. And you see, if we just start taking these off, let's say we have a blog post, but we don't update it too often, or let's say it has evergreen content. So if something was written a year ago, it's still relevant. We don't want the date to display. Well, we can simply just take that off. And it's as easy as that. Now, what we'll do here is if we go down to featured images, when you have a blog post that has an image, you can choose to display that here as well. So that typically looks nice. It's more visually appealing. This particular one doesn't have one just yet, but we can display that. So now we can choose to not only do this for the archives, but the posts and pages. So we're going to be setting up, for instance, a default page. And so I don't want them to display the featured images. I would rather design the page myself with the actual image that I want it to have and have the same look, because the size that I'm going to be using for a featured image is not the size that I'm going to be using for, let's say, the background of the header there. We're not going to be having any post, as this isn't a blog, but if you want to do that, then you can enable all of that here. And for the archive post on your main blog post page, you'll be able to set how that looks. So with the featured image, you'll be able to choose the location. Is that going to be below the title, above the title, centered, left, and what size is this going to be? So this gives you the different options for how it gets uploaded into WordPress, or if you just want to set a specific height and width, but typically we want to upload these at the size that we're going to be using them at. Now, if we go back up to this top section here, we looked at the featured images and how those are going to display on the archives versus posts and pages. But up here at the top, make sure that you are creating these settings or adjusting these settings for the actual blog archives page and also your single post. So if you have a single post, that's where we're going to be clicking in here to the actual blog post here. As you can see, this is just a basic, sample page here. And what we can do is we can decide again, do we want to have the date here? Do we want to have the author? Do we want to get that removed? Do we want to remove any of the categories, for instance? And so that's just going to change how this actually displays. So that is that when it comes to updating your blog. All right, let's look at our final customization here, which is the footer of the website. So if we scroll on down here to the bottom, we're going to see this footer section right here. So this is what we're now going to get to edit. We can select again full or contained, how we want that to look. We can do the inner footer width, whether that is contained or full. And we can select the number of widgets that we want to appear. So here we have the options from 0 up to 5, and 3 has been added here, but we don't have any widgets set up. So what we'll do is let's jump back over to this tab where we had the menu up. If we want to update what appears in the footer, we can go over here to the appearance section and click on widgets. Now, as you see on the right-hand side here, we have footer widget 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So anything that we would want to have appear on the footer, we want to include that within this particular widget. So let's say here, for instance, we can see up here what is in the sidebar. Let's say we want to have a list of the pages in the first footer. We can have that here. Let's just say we want to call that resources, and we'll save that. And let's say in the second widget box, we want to have a search bar, and we can title this search for resources. Now this isn't really applicant to this particular site that we're building, but I want you to see how you can do this for your own site. And then let's say in the third widget, we want to add some text, and we can say this will be about us. So we can put in here, you know, I'll just put in blah, blah, blah for the moment, but this could be text about your business, your website, anything you want there, and we'll save that. So now when we come back over here, we can refresh this, and let me just make sure that we've saved these changes before I do that. And now when I scroll to the bottom, well, there we go. Those are now the widgets here. So this took us to a different section. So we're going to come back out here to our layout and into footer. And see, now we have our 3 widget area. So if we ever wanted to add more, we could do that. And then we can add a back to top button. So if we have content and it's really long, if we want to enable that, that's going to put this little box here, this little icon. So if somebody clicks that, it scrolls them right up to the top of the site for them. So that's something you can choose to enable. I'm going to keep that enabled again, because we're not going to have a lot of content. But as with all the other areas, we're going to be able to adjust the padding here. And this is where you can adjust the copyright, which is what is put down here. So for instance, if we want to have the copyright symbol, and then you can see here, instead of having to manually update the year, we can simply select this code, and then it's going to put in the current year. So then next year, it will automatically update for you and you don't have to do anything for that. So now we'll enter the site title, for instance, and we can add that here. So if there's any HTML that you want to use or any short codes that you have, then you can simply add that there. So we'll leave that as is for now, and we'll head back over. Now, actually, the only other thing I want to show you about this is, again, just remember you have more controls up here. So if, for instance, let's say we don't want the background to be this gray color. So you see we have 2 sections, the footer widgets, which is these widgets here that we've just added. And we also have the footer bar, which is down here. Now we also have the final section, which is the back to top button. So if you want to change the color of that or the arrow color, you're going to be able to do that. So let's say we didn't want this dark gray. Let's say we wanted to change it to orange, so it's bright and cheery, just like the site logo. Then we can set that there, and we can always change the text. Let's say we want to have a darker color so that stands out a little bit more. We can do that. So that is done. And if we want the widget here to stand out a little bit from the background, so we're going to be making our page backgrounds white throughout, then what we'll do is, let's make the background just like light gray color, just, you know, just a little bit, so it stands out a little bit more. As you can see, it is changing there. So we'll just do it just a slight gray, just like that. And now we can go ahead and publish that. So we are now done with that. And that is the layout. Now, as you can see here, as you are customizing this, if you want to change any of this, you'll see these little pencil icons. So if you wanted to update this and you simply click on it, it's going to take you right to the widget here. So now if you have actual text and you want to pop that in here, you see it's automatically going to change that for you. And if you want another widget to be added in here, you'll be able to just simply click add widget, and you'll be able to select the type of widget that you want to have. Do you want to add a video? Do you want to add in recent posts, for instance? So all of that can happen right there. So we'll go ahead and go back here, and we have colors. Now notice that we have seen a lot of these. We've had the body, the header, the navigation, the off canvas panel. So as you were going into the different layout sections here, let's say we were on the primary navigation, when we selected this colors here, that's actually the same as if we went into this colors section right here. So we've already really taken care of everything that we want to do. But in the event you ever need to come back, that is how you can get there as well. Same thing with typography. We've been through this. If we clicked in that little box there at the top in the layout section, that's going to allow us to do anything that we want with text. We can change the link color. We can change the color when you hover over a link. We can change the text color, the text font. All of that happens right there. Now let's look at background images. This is another thing that we looked at here when we were talking about the navigation. If we wanted to have an image back here, we can do that. Typically, I'm not adding that in because that's just not really the style of the site. That's not something you see too often, but we want to try and keep images to a minimum, and I'm not going to add them in where we typically don't see those here. So if you want the sidebar background to have an image, for instance. You're going to be able to select that image, and then how do you want that to appear? Do you want it to repeat? Do you want it to not repeat? What size would it be? All of that good stuff right here. So we don't need to go into each one of those because that's going to be the same for all of them, and we've looked at that. Next up, we have the general section. Now, this is really about CSS. So if that is not something you are familiar with or going to be customizing, you're probably just going to skip this section here. But if you are going to be customizing the website with CSS and you understand how to set that up in an external file, that is going to help your site perform better in terms of how quickly it's going to load. So in that case, you would want to select an external file here. This is really something you only want to change if this is a new site, because if you already have it set up on your site and then you're switching it, well, you're going to need to know what you're doing with that. So it's best to pick what you're doing when you have a new site, but we're not going to be doing any further customization. So we're going to leave that as is for now and head on over to menus. So menus is what we've looked at before. We currently only have one menu, which was the sample menu that we set up for our off canvas panel. So if we want to create a new menu, for instance, one of the menus that I would create, I call a main menu. And that is just the menu that I put up here as the header. And I select that as the primary menu because again, that just goes to the top of the site. So I set that up and then it wants me to add in the items here. So this is going to be any of the pages, for instance, or if there's any blog posts that I'm linking to. If I have something custom that I want to link to, then I can do that there. But again, we need to go in and add the pages, and then we're going to be able to come back and add these to the menu. But I do want to add in that main menu. Now you may want to create a footer menu if you want to have a menu that's going to be appearing down here. You'll also be able to add that in as a widget, and you'll be able to set the locations for that in here as well. So popping back over here, we're going to look at the actual widgets. We have the right sidebar, which is here. We have the header, the footer. We looked at the three widgets that we were going to be creating down there at the bottom. We have the footer bar, we have the top bar. So not all of these sections need widgets unless that is the way that you are designing the site. So we started setting up the ones that we wanted and we can leave these as is. Now this sidebar that we have right here right now, this is just the default of how WordPress was set up when it was installed. So we can go over to the right sidebar, and for instance here, since this is a site that isn't going to have a lot of content, we're going to remove that. Now we're going to be creating a custom page and we're not going to be adding in a sidebar and everything. But again, want to show you this for how this looks. Now, if we want to have recent posts, we can change the title of this. So we can say trending post, for instance, and it can show 5 of the most recent posts here. If we want the date, we can just simply click that and it'll show that there as well. So again, if we want to take out the archives, let's say, we'll remove that. I don't want to have this in there. We'll remove that. And as you can see, that has completely changed the sidebar and what is appearing there. Now we can customize this as we go, and we'll make this look a little prettier too. Now this next one we're going to need to come back to, and this is the home page setting. So you have 2 options for a home page, and that is your latest post, and that is what you see right here. So if your website is going to primarily be a blog, that's the focus, you want people coming in and seeing what is on your blog, promoting all your posts right there on the home page, that's what you want to select. Otherwise, if you want to create a custom home page, which is what we're going to do, then we will select a static page. So now you'll be able to select any of the pages that you want for your blog post to appear on. So we will do the sample page, which is this. And for the home page, well, we don't have that set up yet. So that's why I'm saying we have to come back after that page has been created and we will select that there. So now when somebody goes to your actual URL, or they click on your logo to go to the home page, it's going to come to the page you have set. So we're going to come back to that here. And as I mentioned before, with any additional CSS, if you want that to be added to your website, you can do that here. But we were just looking at how if you add that as an external file, that's going to help with the performance of your website. But again, you may not be doing this at all. So if you are familiar with CSS, you're going to know exactly what to do with that. So we're going to leave those changes and we're going to hit publish just again to make sure we have those saved. So now this is where things start to get fun. We of course want to start setting up our pages and our posts for our website, but what we need to do is first create the template. So what we want to do is we want to start creating page elements so that when we create the pages, we create the posts, we're only creating the content for that specific page or post, and then our template will automatically make it look nice and it will look like the rest of the site. So with the GeneratePress, we do this using elements. So we're going to come back out here to the dashboard, and under appearance, we're going to select elements. Now, as you can see, we don't have any elements just yet. So what we're going to do is we are going to click on the Add New Element button. And here in the pop-up, it is going to give us 4 options. We have a block element, header, hook, and layout elements. So the block element, this is going to allow you to use the WordPress block editor, and you can create hooks, you can create site headers, footers, sidebars, all of that you can display across multiple pages and posts. For the header element, this is great if you want to create page heroes that go across the entire top. The hook element, this allows you to insert any content into any of the available hooks that are on your website. So there is a hook for a secondary navigation that appears above your menu. There's one for below your menu. There's one for before the logo or after the logo, above content, below content, above the comments, on the sidebar, below the sidebar. So you have all of these hooks that can appear in all of these different locations. And lastly, we have the layout element, and this allows you to enable or disable layout features. And you can do this for specific pages or even pages that you won't have default settings naturally applied to them. And you're going to be able to go in and set that up. So as an example, you can also change the sidebar layout if you want to have a different layout for specific categories or on specific pages, for example. But we're going to get into all of that in just a minute. So if all of this isn't perfectly clear just yet, that's okay. We're going to go into each of these individually so you can see how to set these up and how this is really going to start to shape the whole look and feel of your website. Okay, so before we go ahead and create our first element, let's do this. Let's jump over here and create a new page. I want to do this so that as we create elements and we assign them to a specific page, you can actually see the impact that this starts to make. So why don't we go ahead and create the home page? So we'll go ahead and just set up a home page. I'm not going to add any design to it at this point. We will come back to this, but we just want to simply create this page. Now, before we go back to elements, what I do want to show you here is on the right-hand side where you have your settings. If you don't see this column here, just click this icon right here, and you're going to scroll down, and under this section, layout at the bottom, this is where you'll be able to adjust any of the customizations, or really I should say global customizations that you already set up. So if, for instance, you want to have the page have no sidebars, but the customization was for all pages to have a sidebar, well, you can customize that here. Same for footer widgets or the container, all of that you can change. At the bottom here, you have disable elements. So if there's a particular element that you don't want to show, so for instance, if you have a secondary navigation and you don't want that on this particular page, you can simply just check the box and it will remove it for you. Now, as we create elements, I'm going to show you how you can assign them to certain pages and exclude them from other pages. It really helps you customize your site, and it's really amazing. So what we're going to do here is we're going to click on publish, just get this live here for us. I'm going to copy this link and we're going to paste this over here. As you can see, this is awful. We just have a boring page up with no customization, not looking good. So we're going to fix that. So what we'll do now is that now that we have this, we're going to go back over to elements. So all we need to do is come over here to appearance and elements. Now, the homepage we just created hasn't been set as our website's actual homepage. We looked at that setting before, but we didn't have a page set up. So we will go back and do that. But what we want to do right now is why don't we create the header for the homepage? Let's say you have a website that is primarily a blog. A lot of times you have a homepage that looks different than all of your blog post page. It has a little bit different layout. So we're going to set something up unique to the homepage. So to do that, we are going to create a block element type. This is really good for having hooks, or if you want to create a site header or footer, or you want to create a sidebar, this is where you can do that. So the first thing we want to do is give this element a title. Now, this is not going to appear anywhere other than on the element dashboard where we just were when we click to add a new element. So that way you're going to be able to identify which element you actually want to get into. So we're just going to call this the homepage header. So now what we need to do is adjust some of these settings down here. So under block type, we have the 5 options to create a hook, a site header, a site footer, or the right sidebar. So what we're going to do is for this page, I'm actually going to make this page look a little bit different than the blog page. So that way you can see the different ways you can set up a header. But we will do a hook for right now. And so now when we select a hook, we have to say where we want the hook to actually display on the page. So what I want to do is have this header appear directly below that top navigation bar where you have the logo and the main menu there. So what we're going to select here is generate after header. And that's exactly where that will go. And then when you come down to a location here, now this isn't referring to where on the web page do you want it to go. This is referring to what page or post or sections of your website do you want this element to appear on. Now, since we're making this header only for the home page, that's what we're going to select, is just the front page. So this is not going to appear anywhere else. So now what we need to do is come back up here to the WordPress editor, and we need to design the header. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this block element, and I'm going to select cover. That way we can create a nice background, and that's going to get our header going. So I want to use a color for this, and I'm going to actually select gradient. Now this is a blue to a light purple, and I want this to be more of greenish. So I'm going to click inside this circle here, and I'm going to change this color to more of a greenish. So now you can see how this has this nice fade from green, a little bit bluish on to purple, but I don't want to use purple. I actually want to stick with the green. So I'm going to click inside the purple circle here, and I'm going to change this to a different green. So we can see now that fade, but I want more of this darker green here to appear. So I can simply slide this over a bit. And I think right about there is good. So that'll be our background. And if you just want a solid color, of course, you can do that here. So what I want to do here now is I see a little bit of white space. Do you see this on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side? You can always X out of these settings so you can see it a little bit better. And I don't want that space on the side. You know, you're used to it being full width and have it stretch across. So what we'll do is come here to the alignment setting, and I'm going to pull down to full width. So now look, it gets rid of that. So you still see a little bit of space here, but that's not going to appear on the main site. So now we can go ahead and add a title in here. Now I already have some copy written just for us to be able to copy and paste in here. So I will grab that here, and this is going to be the header. And so I'll just write the title in here right where it says that. So we'll add that in like that. So now what I want to do is I want to add below this an image, and then I want to add in some more text and a Facebook Messenger icon. So the goal here of this site is to get visitors to click on the Facebook Messenger button in order to subscribe them to the Messenger list. So that way they will be able to be notified. It's almost like a weekly email that is going to go out, but instead it's going to happen through Facebook Messenger. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to add a new block, and this time we're going to add in a couple of columns here. So we can add in 2 columns, one for the text on the right and one for the image on the left here. And it's set to 50-50, so equal columns, but you're going to be able to customize this if you want. So what we want to do now is go ahead and add in that image. And so let's go ahead and click on upload. And I'm going to select this family fun image right here. And we'll put that in here. So now this is going all the way to the side. So what I'm going to do is just actually align this to the right. And that jumps over just a bit. And on this side, I'm going to go ahead and add in some text. So we'll put in the paragraph. And we'll come back here for this text. We have how it works. And then we show them the 3 steps of how this actually works. So we will pop that in there. But I do want to increase the size of this a bit. So we'll come back over here to the settings and we'll increase this a bit here. Probably not as big as the header there. And we'll go ahead and increase these just a bit as well. So let's say, I'll just select that as medium. So there we have that now. So now the next step here is we want to add in a Facebook Messenger button. So what we're going to do is I actually have a mini chat account set up, and this allows you to build a Facebook Messenger list. I'm not going to go all into how to set this up and how to use this because you're probably not going to be setting this up on your site. And so I just want to show you though how you can do this, because even though you may not use ManyChat per se, you are going to at some point want to embed something on your website or to add in a script, and we're going to need to use a hook to do that. So this is good to know. So the first thing we're supposed to do is to install a JavaScript snippet. And if we click on this, this actually tells us to put this script at the head of every page. So we're going to do that here in just a second. What I'm going to do is go ahead and grab the widget code. And we actually want to put this where we actually want the widget to appear on the website. So we're going to come back over here and we can click on this and we can add in an HTML block right here. And now it gives us this little box here. So we'll just pop in the code right there. And that is it. So now we can see what this looks like. We can always X out of here to kind of see how this is looking. And one thing you may notice is that for the green, it is kind of pushed towards the top. So as we have the logo and the menu here, it doesn't have a lot of space. So what we can do is we can add some space to it. So I'm going to click on this block here and we are going to search for a spacer. So this just allows us to have some more space in between these blocks. And I'm going to use this arrow to bump this up to the very top. So maybe if that's a little bit more space that we need, we can just kind of adjust it in this way. But as you can see, this is starting to look really good here. So what we're going to do is we're going to publish this. Now, before we actually go see how this looks live, keep in mind there's still 2 things that we need to do. The first is we need to add in the code so that Facebook Messenger actually works. And we also need to make sure that we set the home page that we created as the actual front page so that when we go to the site, it looks this way. But we'll go ahead and publish this. So let's come back over here to customize. So if you don't know how to get there, if you go to your navigation bar under appearance and click customize, that'll get you back to where we were earlier. And what we're going to do is go down here to homepage settings. And there are 2 options. One, you can use the latest post to display on your homepage. And the other is to use a static page that you have created specifically for the homepage, but that wasn't created before. So we'll select a static page, and then under homepage, we will select home. That's the new one we created. And there we go. We're starting to see things here. So we're going to publish this. And now when we come back to the site and refresh the live version, well, there you go. Now we're starting to see something here. So now we're starting to get somewhere. So next thing up is we want to go ahead and add in that Facebook Messenger. So what we'll do here is we're going to pop out of this homepage header element and we're going to create a new element. And this is where we want to add in the JavaScript snippet. So I'm going to copy this code to the clipboard. And here again, it says place it into the head of every page on your website. Of course, you need to have this on all of your pages or a lot of them. So what we're going to do is select hook and we're going to put create. So I'm going to label this as ManyChat and I'm going to pop in that script right here. And as we scroll down here, we have to say where we want the hook to actually go. So on all these other ones, like we looked at with the header we just created for the home page, this is where we're actually visually going to be able to see this. But since we are using a script, we're sticking here at the top under this section, scripts and styles. And we're going to select in the head because that's where they said to put it. Now we need to pop over here to display rules, and this is where we can select the location. So it said to put it site wide. So if that's the case with a script that you're using, simply select entire site. If I'm only going to be using this on the home page, I can set it there, but I do think we may add this to some other pages. So just go ahead and add it across the entire site and click publish. So now with that script published, now we can come back out to the home page. Let's refresh this, make sure our button is showing up. And there you go, it is there. So now we'll probably just want to customize this a little bit more. So we have it in a little bit different location over here maybe, but there you go. You see how much better this is already looking. So now that we have this top header done, now we can start to customize this area below just a bit. So let's pop back over to our pages, and we're going to go into the home page that we created here. Now I'm going to pop back over to settings. And I want to remove the content title. So over here on the home page where it says home, that doesn't look so good. So we're going to click update there, and we pop back over to the site here. We can see that that has been removed. So now what we can do is start to customize the content that is going to appear below the header. So this is specific to the homepage design. It's not going to appear anywhere else. So what I want to do is just add in some basic icons just to give the page a little bit more context if people are saying, okay, well, this sounds interesting, but what kind of deals? So what we're going to do is we're going to add in 6 different columns. We're going to do that in 2 different rows. So we're going to add in 3 columns here. And the first thing we're going to add is an image. We're actually going to make the top row an image. And then we're going to add in a header here. We're going to call this theater. We're going to be able to send out deals about shows or theater shows for kids, and we'll go ahead and center this. So now what we want to do is upload a theater image. So we should have one of those here. Yep, right here. We'll add that in, and we want to align this to the center just so it's right above there. And if you want to play around with the size at all, you can just do that here at the bottom. So we can do that a little bit smaller. Ideally, what you're doing is you are actually making the image the same size as what you want it to appear, optimizing that image before you upload it, but just showing you some of these settings here. Now we can go here and we can add in another image. And we're going to make this for family-friendly events. So let's see, we have family events right here. This one's still appearing a little bit big. So I'll just do this for right now, but later before this goes live, I would like to actually make sure that these are sized down to the actual image that they're appearing. And then now that we have the image, we can go ahead and add in another block with another header. And what was this? H3 we said, and we're going to put family-friendly events here. We'll align that to the center. And I'm going to do this for all 6. So now I have gone ahead and I've added all these categories in here so they have a little bit better idea of the types of deals that could come through. And I've added this bar down here at the bottom, just that way if they continue to scroll but hadn't signed up but now think it's a good idea, they don't have to go back up to the top to look for it. So we just added in another bar, again, using the columns and the cover and the gradient background color. So doing the same thing we did above, and we've just set that like this. And now we can go ahead and update this. And we can jump back over to the home page here and see these changes. So now as we scroll down, now we can see how this is actually starting to look. So the last thing we really need to do here is we need to set up the footer here, because obviously that still needs some work, and then that will really bring this page together here. So this is coming along really nicely. Let's actually create a blog post. We're going to come back to the footer here because we'll just create one that works for the entire site. So let's go over to our elements and let's create a new one. And this time, instead of selecting block, I'm going to select header. Now you can set up a header just the same way we did it, but I want to show you another option. So let's say what you would like to do is have your header merge with your menu bar. And what that means is if you go over to the site, you will actually have this background color or the background image extend all the way to the top. And then the logo will be over top of it. The menu will be over top of it here, and you won't have that white bar. So I want to show you how to do that because a lot of sites do that, and that can look really good. So we'll click create, and we're just going to use this as an example here, and we'll call this a blog post header. So now what happens is we want to create the text. So if you think about a standard blog post, when you go, you have your navigation at the top, you have an image that goes full width, and on top of that image is the title of the blog post. And if you continue scrolling, then it opens up into white space where you have the content of the post. So we want to do something similar to that here. So what we want to do is we're going to copy these template tags. So the first one is the post title. So if we put the post title here, that is going to insert it right there in the middle of the image that we're going to create. So we're going to put this in an H1 tag here. We'll just copy this here real quick and I'll put that right inside. Now, if you want to add in the date or the author, anything else, then you can add those in there just using these template tags as well. Now, there's no design to this yet. That's just simply the title. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down here and we want the container to be full width, so it spans all the way across. And then we want the alignment to be set to the center. And then here we can choose a background image. So there's two things we can do. We can either select a custom image. And when we do this, when we go to the display rules, if we set this to be on all the blog posts, for instance, or across the entire site, all of those pages or posts are going to have that same custom image. Now, on the other hand, if we are creating a blog post, but we'd like to have a unique image at the top, what we can do is just select this as featured image. So if we hop back over here for a second to post, and I'm going to click add new. I don't believe we have any posts set up just yet. We're going to call this the best blog post ever. And let's go ahead and just publish this. Now I'm going to copy this and we'll put it over here. As you can see, no design, nothing exciting over here. So we can change that. So what we'll do is we're going to set this to the featured image. So if we come back over here to our post and we're going to select the settings at this time, we'll go to the featured image section down here. And let's go ahead and upload a featured image. So here we have a post background that is uploaded. So we will set the featured image and we can see part of it there. So we will click update. And now let's go back over to our element. So now when this post loads, it is going to load the background image at the top with the text here, as we have set the post title to appear on top of it. So if you want this to have the parallax effect, you can enable that right here. And what you can also do is you can select a background color and you can check this box for the background overlay. So if we were to, let's just uncheck this for a second, come up here and we're going to publish this. Now, actually, what we need to do is we didn't set a location. So what we'll do is we'll go over here to the display rules, and then we're going to select post. So this is going to appear on all of the posts. So that way it's going to be consistent. And now we'll update it one more time. And we'll come back over here to the best blog post ever. And as you can see, now it has the text best blog post ever. And we have this tiny little image here. So it at least is there. So now what we want to do is we want to come back and customize this so it looks a bit better. So what we're going to do is we're going to add in some padding. So let's say on the top, we want to have 125 pixels. The right, let's do 80. The bottom, we'll do another 125 and the left 80. So let's see what that looks like when we update that. So now you can see we have a little bit more height to it. We can see it a little bit better. And what we want to do though is we want to update this. So we can't see that text too well. So we definitely need to update that. So if you want to make this a little bit bigger, you can do so. You can just simply change those numbers. And what we can also do to make the text pop out a little bit, first we can set it down here to be white. And we can also add a background overlay. So this is going to put a color over top of the image that we just uploaded there. So let's say we want to have a blue overlay, or let's select this little bit lighter one. And we're just going to lower the opacity a bit here. So that way we can see the image through this color. So now we'll come back up here and update it. And again, we'll check what this looks like when we refresh it. And there we go. So see, now this is going to pop out. So every single time you now have a blog post, it is always going to have this blue overlay. It's going to have the white title on top of that, and it is going to change the image behind it using whatever featured image you upload on the individual post. So now you have that header. So let me show you one other thing that you can do. So if you like it like that, you want to have the menu consistent like that, you can leave it as is. What you can also do is come over here to site header. And we have this section here, merge with content. And you can select merge, and this is going to literally put the menu and that image there together. And we'll update this. We'll back and see what this looks like. So now you can see how it bumped that header all the way to the top, and we have the menu over here. We have the logo over here. Now, obviously the logo doesn't look good because it's not transparent. So we can fix that. So over here, we can go back to site header and we can upload a different logo. So now what we can do is, since these have the white background, we can upload a transparent version of the logo here. So here's the transparent one. We'll upload this, update one more time, and a quick refresh, and you'll see now that doesn't have the background. Now that's not the greatest version. We may want to change this orange text to maybe white or do something a little bit different, but you get the idea here. That makes that look really neat, and that's how you can overlay that. Now we can go ahead and add some blog text in here. So I don't have a blog written yet, just because we aren't actually going to be doing that here. So let's come over here to the post, and what I'm going to do is just add in some text, and this is just obviously sample text, just so we can get a better idea of what this looks like. So we can come over here, we can see what the content's going to look like. It's starting to look like an actual post, right? We have the comments here below, and we just got to work on that footer at the bottom. So one other thing we need to do now is create the sidebar, because we just have this default sidebar, and we can really make the site look a lot better if we update how it looks here. Now let's create another element, and we are going to select block, because this is how we can create sidebars. And from block type, we are going to select right sidebar, since ours is on the right-hand side. And we'll go ahead and set this to appear on the post. So if you want this on pages and you want this on posts, we can add another location rule right here. We're going to be able to edit this so you can select specific blog posts that you want this particular sidebar on. So if you want certain sidebars on some posts and not on others, you can customize that here. Or let's say you have multiple categories for your blog, then you can have one sidebar for a certain category and a different sidebar for other categories. It's really flexible in letting you customize your site in that way. So let's just set up something basic up here. We're going to add in the title. Up here, we'll just call this right sidebar. And let's go ahead and add in a block here. So let's do this. Let's see. Let's add in an image here at the top. And maybe what we'll do is just point people to sign up with Facebook Messenger, since that's our main call to action here. So I don't have an image specifically for the sidebar. So let's, in the meantime, just add this one in that we had on the home page. And let's see, we can also customize this. So this is more of a rounded image, or we just leave it as the default right there. And let's see what this looks like a little bit smaller. I think we'll just add this as a little bit smaller image. And again, we'll come back and be able to reduce the size of this. So then let's go ahead and add in some text below it. We'll just direct people to sign up for free weekly family fun deals in Washington, D.C. And we will just center that there. And we want to make sure this is appearing center as well. Now below this text, let's go ahead and add in custom HTML, so we can just pop in our code there. And this will have the Facebook Messenger button pop up right there. So now we have that on the right sidebar. We have our locations for all of the posts, and that looks good. So if we want to have more than one thing on the sidebar, all we do is we just keep going. We just keep adding in more blocks and designing it this way. So that way, if you ever need to adjust the sidebar, you want to change anything, remove anything, add anything, you just come back to the element, do it once here, and then it applies across all of the pages you have set here. So let's publish this. And now that it's published, we will jump back over to the best blog post ever. And let's see, there it is on the sidebar. So now we have this here. So now this is really looking good. So the only other thing that we really need to do with this site now is start to customize the footer here. Go ahead and create the footer now, and we're just going to set this to go site wide. So you can see there's two sections of the footer. The first is this copyright bar that goes across the bottom, and we also have this widget area. So we can add in different widgets here and have them appear. So we can use the default one and just customize the background and what actually appears in the widgets, or we can go in and create a footer element and create our own custom footer. So now there are two options when we create the footer. One, we can either replace both of these, or what we can do is keep the copyright bar and just replace the widget area here above. So let's jump back over to elements. We're going to add a new element. This is also going to be a block element, and we're going to leave this as a hook. Now what we want to do is we want to set this in the footer. So there's a couple of things you can actually do here. One, you can set this as the site footer, and then you can choose the location if you want it to go site wide, and you can go ahead and customize it. What you can also do is select hook, and here we're going to go down to the footer section, and we have different options for where we're going to put this. So I want to generate this before the footer. So this means it's going to appear before the copyright bar. So if we just put in some sample text, where does this go? And let's publish this. And we'll go back over to the blog post just as an example here. And now you can see that this appears right here. So we still have the copyright bar. We still have the widget area. If I want to get rid of these widgets, which I do, I'm going to come over to customize. So again, appearance, customize, and I'm going to go into layout, footer, and I'm going to select 0 widgets. So now you can see it has removed the widgets, and it has the new element that I've created right here above this copyright bar. So we'll go ahead and publish that. So then we can come back here and we can customize the way this looks a bit more so it's a little nicer. When you're on this page here in customization, you'll see this little pencil icon. So right now we have a sample page. So this has part of a menu. So if I click on that, now I'm able to edit this. This is the menu. So I can come over here and I can add in some new items here. So let's say I want to have a privacy policy. I can add that in. If I want to have terms and conditions, we can add that in. If there's any post or categories, or even if you want to create any custom links, you can simply add that to the menu here and we can click publish. So now you can see we have some additional menu items down here in addition to this. So we'll be removing this sample page because we don't really need that there, but we do want to have our privacy policy, terms and conditions. We may add a content link down there, and then we can just leave that as publish. So once that looks good to you, then you can come on back over here to the element and we can start customizing this with some blocks. So we'll go ahead and get rid of this text here. So let's add in a block. And let's say you want to put in some columns here. Let's say you want to have a couple of columns, and over here we can have an image. And let's see, let's just pick one from the media library for the moment. We could just pick one of our people here and we'll click select. And we will center align them in this one. And let's say over here, we want to have this as a paragraph and we just want to add in some text. We can say about DC family deals, and let's just say we're adding in a bunch of text here about this. So now we can keep that. And if we want to come back to the actual column itself, we can come back over here to the color settings and we can again play around with some of these colors. And if we were to update this and go back, we can see that now appears here at the bottom. So this is exactly how you're going to be able to customize this in any way that you want. So you've seen me customize some of these other elements using WordPress. So you're going to be able to do the footer in the exact same way. So now if we come back over here and we refresh this, we'll get to take a look at the new site. You can see that the site is looking so much better now. We have the element here at the top telling people what the site is about. We have some examples here. We have another opt-in, and we have the footer down here. So this is completely up to you, obviously, how you want to design this. We're going to take this out, but I simply wanted to add this in just as an example real quick to show you how to add this in. And if you want to have a couple layers of the footer, you can do that. But for us, it's going to make more sense just to have this yellowish orangish bar just match up to this darker blue gradient background here. So that's what we'll be doing, but you'll see the site is coming along really, really well now. So all that we really have to do at this point is just some of the basics. We need to make sure that we add in a couple of pages here. We're going to be adding in a submit a deal page and a contact page here. But those are some basic things that you'll be able to do. So I've taken about 5 minutes at most in order to just do a couple of the tweaks that we talked about. And I want to show you what this final site looks like here. So as you can see, I've updated the menu. So now we have the submit a deal and a contact form. I've just bolded this and play with the alignment here as well, and added in some spacing and just clarified what these categories here actually are. And scrolling down, I just removed that light blue footer that we had that I created just as an example here. So as you can see here, everything is done. And this is all we need to do. So anytime you ever need to update your website, you can simply go back to the elements and just change those so that they go across your entire site or to certain sections or pages or posts or wherever you want them to be. So this is just such an amazing tool to be able to have, to be able to customize sites at this level and keep your website running really, really fast and still not even have to code your website. So I really hope that this was helpful. If you found this helpful, please do consider sharing it with someone else who may find this helpful as well. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already, so you don't miss out on any new tutorials I have coming for you. Thank you so much for watching and going through this with me. If you have created a site using GeneratePress as you've gone along, please drop that in the comments below. I would love it to take a look and see what you have created. Thanks again, and I'll catch you next time.